A lot of people are doing.
Yeah.
Sorry. Are you on mute?
No, I'm just opening up the file.
Just to go share whole screen.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter location. Don't open that. Let's go through the browser.
Oh, it's not allowing me through Zoom.
No, it will. Just do the screen share. I do that.
Okay.
So we can, are those dots always there?
Where? A share screen?
Yeah, share.
It's your screen share. And you will have to monitor the chat on your personal device. You can minimize this. No, this we don't want this.
This is
No, this is the PowerPoint, but it always messes up. I was trying to open the browser.
You want?
Did you close the browser?
yes, please.
There you go.
The Zoom link? Yes. You just join that.
Hello.
I don't think we'll need this if they're not going to these people. It will
Okay.
create an echo.
All right.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
No, you don't turn that on.
Okay.
Because everybody can hear. Yeah, it will create an echo for sure.
Maybe for the voice. Okay. All right. So I think it's almost 11:01. Good morning, everyone, and thank you all for joining today. Today we have a very special session on Sanjeevni, partnering with Desi Rainbow. As some of you know, who is Sanjeevni and what does Sanjeevni do? Sanjeevni is a non-for-profit organization based out of the Chicago area. We provide 24/7 free advocacy and support for anyone going through mental health concerns about their mental wellness, and of course, any concerns about domestic abuse happening here. Both of these topics are taboo topics, and often we do not talk about it, but it's important. It's part of the community, and we as an organization are here to help anyone who may be going through these concerns. As we have been operating for the last 9+ years, we've seen that there have been several calls and concerns from the community in embracing our kids, our families who may have people who have chosen uh, to be LGBTQ. Either they have chosen a preference for being gay or lesbian or trans. They are all our brethren. They are all part of our community. And because it has not followed a certain norm, there have been challenges, there have been concerns, and we have gotten a lot of calls to say, can you help us? Can you help us relieve the mental concerns that we've been having? Most importantly, when kids and teenagers come to us, the thing they say is, can you help our parents support us? And so today we are very, very delighted to welcome a special guest from Desi Rainbow, headed by Aruna. And I'd like our special parents to come here on stage, let us know what we are, what they are, or what together we can work on and essentially help our community move forward. A huge thanks also to Colleen, who was able to make the connection with Desi Rainbow. So welcome everyone. I hope you're able to listen to the broadcast. If not, put it in the chat. We're also open to any questions. You can post the questions anonymously or directly. Our job today is to help everyone for questions and ways that we can support the community. Remember, we are just one community. So welcome parents, welcome Desi Rainbow.
Can we just confirm before we get started that you all can hear us? Can someone give a thumbs up on Zoom or something to let us know? You can? Okay, perfect. Okay, so since you all can hear us, okay. First of all, thank you to Sanjeevani for inviting Desi Rainbow to talk a little bit more about LGBTQ youth, families, and the things that Desi Rainbow does. Our topic that we have chosen for today is basically breaking the silence, and want to first provide a perspective why we are using these very strong words to talk about the LGBTQ identities and LGBTQ families and the challenges we face. So as you all know, that currently in the current political environment, there's a lot going on different domains, and our country is split both on party lines, political ideologies, and also how we think about the LGBTQ identities. There are a lot of legislations that are pro-LGBTQ in many states. However, at the same time, there are a lot of legislations that are anti-LGBTQ, specifically targeting children across many states. And as parents who have LGBTQ children, and as families who want to ensure the well-being of a child, it is our duty to ensure that we do everything in our power as parents to help our children to be successful in the lives that they want to live. And that's why we are here. Desi Rainbows is a forum that was started by our founder, Aruna. She is a Desi mother, as she likes to describe herself, from New Jersey, who was struggling many years ago, finding a support for her child who came out as trans at one point in their life. And not finding anything in terms of support within the Desi community, she decided to start her own community, which has become Desi Rainbows. We are a growing group of Desi parents. We are allies of LGBTQIA plus communities and people dedicated to the idea that being proud and visible, supporting each other, telling stories, and advocating for the community in the spaces that will transform the lives for the children and the parents that we work with. So with that small introduction about Desi Rainbows, actually I should have said one more thing that was on the first slide. At the bottom you see, since social media is a big thing, you may want to make a note of all those hashtags, all those handles on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and also, unfortunately, Twitter, which is not the best platform we would like to be on, but it's there. You can join our community, LGBTQI support groups that we offer that are basically monthly virtual meetings, generally happening via Zoom, where parents can get together to talk about challenges, issues they face about their children. We also have a dedicated space for children and youth where parents are not involved and they can talk about themselves in terms of their challenges. We also have one-on-one support groups, just similar to Sanjeevani, which caters to a very wide range of mental health issues. The Sati group, as we call it, is basically providing non-clinical support to parents, to families, to help them navigate and get into the process of accepting their children and helping them guide in that process. So we do that as well. And furthermore, we do have events and trainings, and this is one such session where we as parents of Desi Rainbows go out to reach out to families to help them understand about issues that are being faced by this community. Some of the events that we have done in the past and that we continue to do, Proud Possibilities is one such event where we talk about all the big things that the LGBTQIA community within the Desi spectrum has achieved, whether it's in arts, culture, whether it's in education, you name it, it's there. We do a lot of other religious events because religion is a big part of Desi communities, whether you're a Hindu, Muslim, Christian, Jew, it doesn't matter. We respect those, we honor those, and we try to integrate even the religious component to help understand how faith and communities can come together. So we do all those different things. So please, when you join, you will get to learn more about it.
Hello, everybody. Thank you again, Pramila, for the warm welcome. I'm going to start off with the invitation to Brave Space. There's a poem. I'm not going to read it to you. I'm going to just take a few seconds for us to read it to ourselves and absorb. Oh, this screen, you are not screen sharing. Okay, it says stop share.
Okay, we have to reshare it.
Okay, let's do this again. I apologize.
Now?
Is that better, Colin? We can see it here, so we don't know yet. Okay. Okay, I've given just a few minutes again. Apologize.
Let's give them.
Did everyone have an opportunity? Okay, so I want to start off with, before we do that, our stories. We want to also introduce ourselves. I am Mehreen Ahern. I go by she, her pronouns. I have 3 boys. My youngest happens to be transgender. He's 19, and I am a teacher of 30 plus years. And I am an immigrant from Pakistan, India to our country. And a mom, like I said, of 3 boys and a teacher, and I'm a huge advocate. I've joined Desi Rainbows roughly about 4 or 5 years ago. So it's been a blessing.
Okay, after Marine has introduced herself, we did not introduce her. My name is Rahul Deshmukh. I was the one who was talking. I go by pronouns he, him. I'm a father to 2 children, a 17-year-old who I describe as a cis male as of now, and we'll talk about the terminologies of what they mean. He's just graduated high school and ready to head to college. And the reason why I'm here and why I'm part of Desi Rainbows is because of my younger child, who is a 12-year-old going on 13. She is a trans feminine child. She was assigned male at birth, meaning she was born as a boy. But at some point in her life, she said that she's a girl. And that's the story we will be talking about as my story. Mehreen will be talking about her story, about her child, and sharing a little bit more perspective of how we reach those points of accepting our children, of who they are. So that's in a nutshell about my family. I'm also an immigrant, just like Mehreen. I came to US about 25, 27 years ago, I don't remember, as a graduate student. Lived my life as a graduate student, primarily in academic environments, very liberal spaces, where I got to meet a lot of people from different parts of the world and also from US, and basically built my career around that. I'm also an educator, just like Mehreen. I'm a professor in a small medical school, which caters to other health professions. And I believe that also gives me a little bit of more deeper understanding about LGBTQIA challenges and issues, both from a personal perspective as well as from a medical perspective.
Thank you, Raul. I'm going to start off with a popular icon, the proud peacock, which is an icon for the Desi community. What a beautiful, I'm sorry, did I?
It's
not
too
sharing
sure.
again?
Okay, let's try the other one. Let's try the PowerPoint one. Pardon us, you're not seeing the screen, it looks like. So there's something. It was working? Oh, okay. It should work.
I hope this is all good, right? So the proud peacock, peacock being the beautiful icon for the Desi community. These are some vocabulary words that you will be able to, all good, right? Okay. These are some vocabulary words that you are going to hear a lot of. These are the most commonly used phrases. I'm not going to read every single box. I'm just going to paraphrase. But the pronouns, as you heard Raul and I introduce ourselves, that is how someone wants to be represented and how you identify yourself. These are huge and they're very important. We make it the norm now to say, hi, I am so and so, and I go by he, him, they, them, she, her pronouns. And oftentimes you can also see a good mix of them, some often like she and they. The important thing is if you don't know someone's pronouns, it's okay to ask what pronouns you do go by. And the other thing is getting the pronouns wrong, that's the person's identity. So do make an effort to get that initial identity through these pronouns. Attraction can be in many different ways. It can be sexual, romantic, or emotional, and each individual may feel one or more types of these attractions. So attraction does not necessarily have to do with gender identity. Okay, it's separate. And I'll go into that in a little bit more coming up. The sex assigned at birth, I think you heard Raul say when his daughter was born that she was assigned male at birth. That is, we all go through it with those of us who have had kids. You get the gender identified for you at birth. That's all that is. Gender expression is how people identify their gender identity, and this can depend on context or throughout someone's life. Gender expression can change. It's through their voice, the clothing, the expressions, the everyday nuances that the person chooses to carry. And again, for many, it is a ride, it is a journey, and it does not have to stay consistent. Okay, it is oft changing if that is what the person chooses. A safe environment is definitely something that we are here to help all of us to work together in creating that first space, a safe environment in our homes. Okay, other safe environments include the child's friendships, school, outside family members, the community involvement. And gender identity, this is how a person defines themselves, whether they're transgender, cisgender, non-binary. Now we'll get into what non-binary means. Gender fluid and agender. And these terms often are changing and they're adding on. The more we know, the better we do. And so I am still learning many of the terms that come out. And so when I learn a new term, I do make that effort to keep that open mind and understand, because again, it's a journey and we are discovering new things all the time and coming to knowledge with the old as well, right? That has been around for quite a while. Some people identify with a cultural gender identities, such as some words and terminology that are used in the Desi culture, such as hijra, and the Native Americans use the two-spirit as a gender identity vocabulary that is quite common. Okay. Anything I need to add to this? Okay, your turn.
Before we actually go into the next set of slides, just wanted to actually again touch upon that peacock that you see. And I think it's an important thing for me to bring it up. Does anybody know that the peacock that is looking this colorful here, what is the sex assigned at birth for that peacock? Is it a male or a female? And I'm guessing all of you are going to say that that's a male. And that's the point, like it's a male, but all the traits that are reflected by the peacock that you see on the screen are all feminine traits, even though it's a male. And the male peacocks are the ones that are considered beautiful, that are ornate, and female peacocks, I'll intentionally use the conventional word, are ugly. They are just gray or brown in color, but they are the ones that are responsible for producing the offsprings. And it's the peacock that is expressing its identity as a male in a very, very colorful way. These are the same animals that have a very ornate dance that is considered as a taboo. If a male is dancing in a certain way, dressed up in a certain way, it will not be looked upon positively. But if a peacock does, we find it perfectly okay. And the point is that there's a disconnect. It's very natural. It's very common in nature. And the more the society starts to understand, appreciate, and recognizes these subtle differences, the easier it becomes for us to recognize that even humans come in a lot of different flavors, colors, identities, and fall in a spectrum of things that we call as the rainbow. Since I mentioned that here we are about sharing our stories as parents, the journeys that we went through, I'm just going to digress, not going to the slides anymore for a little bit. We want to continue with the slides to share some important things. But at this point, I'm going to actually ask Mehreen if she can share a little bit about her understanding of gender and sexuality and how it changed over time because of her child.
Thank you, Ro. Wait, it's been 6 years since my son came out to me. So it's not that long ago, you know. To be honest, I never thought of any of it. I didn't spend time learning about gender identity and expression. I was raised in a very conservative Muslim household. We didn't talk about some things, right? We didn't use certain words. We didn't say the word gay or lesbian. So it was just out of mind, out of sight. We didn't discuss it. I didn't have to actually teach myself about it until my son came out to me. He came out to me at the age of 12 through a birth announcement. And when he gave me the birth announcement, it said B is for boy. He wrote a very endearing message to me. And I was very confused because I thought the only term that I knew for my son was lesbian. That's all I knew. And I thought maybe he's a lesbian. I didn't know what transgender meant when he said, I feel and I am a boy. I was like, what does that mean? But the first thing you say to your child is, I love you no matter what, right? That's the first thing that they need to know, that that safe space has been created and that unconditional love is there. So my journey was from complete oblivious, no knowledge of this whatsoever, and then having to teach myself what it meant to have a child who was transgender. Because in my mind, I'm thinking, does that mean cross-dressing? Is that transvestite? I didn't know. But I wasn't going to ask my son. He already had the burden of coming out and of trying to, be his true self. So I had to research that on my own. I've continued learning about it today, and the journey continues, right? And we keep that open dialogue available between child and parent, and also with my parents, as I'm going to explain to you later. Oh, you want to answer the same question?
Yes. Again, we are, I'm sure at this point, all those who are on Zoom or maybe even in the audience here, you may have questions that are coming up in your mind. We are here to make the best effort to answer those questions. But what we'll do is at the end of the presentation, we'll have some time where we can have that exchange. But I'm sure at this must be the point where questions are creeping in your mind as to how did you do this? How did you navigate? What does it mean? And the confusion, challenges you had, and so on. But let me tell you about my story. It is slightly different from Mehreen. So as I said, I have a 12-year-old trans feminine child. And as you can imagine, she's just 12. She has not even hit puberty yet. And that brings us a lot more questions. How can you do that? And what does all that mean? But my child never came out to me. Let me also add the context. What does it mean when we use the word coming out? Is at some point, each child at different ages, whether you are at a young age or whether you are adult, maybe in your 20s, 30s, you may want to share with your extended family outside of yourself that you are something that, or you feel something very different about yourself and you are not the person who the society believes you are. So you may be a male, but you may be attracted to a male and somebody wants to share that, and that's coming out. You may be a female who feels in their heart from a young age or whatever time point that they were always born as males. So that was in their heart and in their mind. and they eventually come out and share it with their family and stuff. So that process is called coming out. So as you can imagine, in case of my child, that was not the story. My child from a very young age always believed that she was a girl, and she acted like one, she felt like one, and she expressed herself like one. And as a parent, as a Desi parent, Indian parent, obviously it is going to be a little bit of like, what is going on here? I'm not, that's not acceptable. And plus I had an older child. Because of my older child, they were all hand-me-down clothes for my younger kid that were getting passed on to this particular child, and they used to always dislike them. So we had to try to find something that is different. And as the child was growing in their very early years, in their kindergarten, first grade, uh, there was a lot of discomfort in them as to how they were feeling about themselves. And at some point, they just said, I just want to be a girl because I am a girl. And my reaction, my wife's reaction at that point was, since I also come from a medical field, okay, let's see what happens. We understand that kids can go through a lot of different thought processes, can get influenced by a lot of things. So we said, okay, let's see what happens. And we did say that maybe it's a phase that the child is feeling in a certain way, and hopefully as a year goes by, 6 months go by, kids are always fascinated, attracted to things. They stick with it for 6, 8 months, 12 months, and suddenly it drops, whether it's Legos, whether it's doing art, or whether it's playing with Play-Doh and slime. They keep doing that for a long, long time. But that was my story, that we said, okay, let's see what happens. But as time went by, a child was more and more confident in telling how they feel, what they think, how they would like to dress. So it started off with simple things. Can I grow my hair? So by all means, who's stopping you from growing your hair? You want to cut it short, keep it short. You want to grow it long, you grow it long. And they basically started expressing themselves as more feminine. And slowly, in our case, it was more of a natural process that today my child cannot be distinguished from a girl, because yes, she has not yet hit puberty, and we have other concerns and challenges that we will be facing in the years ahead. But she is, for all practical purposes, a girl, and that's how everybody knows her. So in a nutshell, that was my story. And with regards to how did I navigate this process of understanding gender and sexuality? It did come naturally. I am in a medical field, so I do teach these topics. So it was a little, I have to be honest, it was a little easier for me to basically recognize and appreciate that these things can happen. These things are part of human evolution, and it was a little easier for me. Mary?
I want to just add to that, Raul, since you said that. I did not take it that well, but I knew that I was very confused. And I just knew that I had to, make sure that I presented a even keel, loving, acceptable, whatever, however you want to call it, to my child, because they were opening up to me, and it was a very scary moment. But to me, I was very confused. I wish I was, going with the flow. And had that medical background. I had nothing. I only had a very strict Muslim upbringing, and I had convoluted thoughts about what it meant to be a Muslim, what it meant to be Pakistani, to carry that heritage and the values. I didn't know other perspectives. So with that being said, it was a tough place to be, in a very scary place, because as a mom, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what are my parents going to think? What is their community going to think? In the mosque, is my child going to be in the men's section or the women's section? I had everything from A to Z going through my mind. But again, the one very overlying feeling that as a parent I have is, this is my kid. This is my child, and I love this child. I brought this child into the world, and this child is my everything. So I want to make sure that I do best by my kid. And I'm the protector, I'm the gatekeeper of my child's well-being. A question that is asked for us next, and what were the worst and the best moments in the journey so far? The worst, let me start with the best. The best moments, I see my son today, and he has just flourished in academics. I have to brag. He's really smart. He's finished 1 year in college, but he's a junior in college. He does everything that his mind is set to do because there are no barriers standing in his way. He wanted to join the swim team, which he did not do up until he came out, and he joined the boys swim team with the support of his family and friends and his coach. And he rocked it. He did so well. Actually, he had the fastest front crawl swim on the boys swim team, so I have to brag. But my son is just a happy, outgoing kid. Everything that he wanted to do for his life and to excel at who he is possible today. And he's a great kid to be around. You can't help but love him because he's a happy kid. But before this, before he was able to come out, he was cutting himself. His hygiene was poor. He was very depressed. He pulled away from a lot of friends. He would spend a lot more time in his room. He didn't join any clubs. He didn't join any sports. He kind of became a recluse. He wore the same clothes over and over again. And as a mother, that was frustrating to see. You know, you just wore that. You just wore that yesterday. Let's go shopping. Let's get you some more new clothes. Let's look at this dress and that. And meanwhile, it's putting him deeper and deeper into that depression. Like, how can she not get it? I don't like bows and dresses and neck, pearly things. It's just not me. That's not who I am. What is she not understanding? So I coined him the word tomboy. You've heard of that word, right? But since he was 5 years old, he was telling me, Mom, I'm not a tomboy. One day I dropped him off at school in kindergarten, and I remember him pointing to the girls in kindergarten and on the swing sets and saying, Mom, see, those are tomboys. She's a tomboy, she's a tomboy. I'm not a tomboy, I'm a big girl. So he was trying really hard from a young age to tell me, I'm different from what you think I am. I don't have that vocabulary to express to you what I'm going through. But Mom, I'm a big girl. So that was coming from an early on. And I was seeing him constantly through family events, through life. He was struggling, but I was chalking it up to covering it with words and terminology that I was comfortable with. Oh, tomboy, because he has 2 older brothers, that's why he's like that, So yes, I see a much happier kid, and I'm very grateful, and it's brought us a lot closer together. Oh, did you want to answer?
Yes. So I'll share a little bit about myself. And as Mary noted, kids don't have the vocabulary early on, especially if they are younger, to express themselves, and they find different ways and means to express themselves. Some of them become isolated. Some of them may even go into art, music as a way of expressing themselves. And some of them may do more harmful things to themselves. And it's a range of things that kids go through. So with regards to my child, what were some of her happy moments for us, the best moments? And actually, my child has evolved into more of an artist, I would say. She's just 12, but she loves everything that's art, and her dream right now is to become a YouTube influencer. I do not know. I want her to be going there in that direction, because anyways, there are influences, social media influences happen, and that doesn't mean that it is going to have an inherent impact on your identity and stuff. Those are very inherent things, unique things about yourself, and social media definitely does not play a role in those type of things. So with regards to my child, from a very young age, many of us may have been aware of that movie called as Frozen. And it probably was in the psyche of most American people, at least in this country, who had young children for at least 3 years of their life. It was only Frozen. The whole world has frozen around Frozen. And that was my child. So one of the things that she used to always enjoy, and you could see an immense joy, was that song, Let It Go. If you remember the song, Let It Go, it is about this princess who has special powers, and she has been inhibited, and she one day finds the courage to say that, no, I'm going to break those shackles and I'm going to be free and I'm going to be myself. So at the age of 5 and 6, I do not believe my child understood what those words really meant. But she used to parade around the house, putting on a cape, which would be her blanket of Elsa, a tiara on her head, and walking around the house, singing the song, making her hand gestures, basically proclaiming that she knows exactly what she wants in life. So those moments were always a joy for us to watch. But again, as parents, we always thought, yeah, she's artistic, she's expressing herself in a beautiful way. That's cool, that's nice. That we didn't obviously think that that means she's going to be a transgender child, but that's where she was basically, that was the vocabulary she was using to communicate to us. And those were actually the best moments I can think of. Right now, she, as I said, is in arts and she goes for Kathak. And I do hope one day, I believe it's called Griha Pravesh, not Griha Pravesh, Rangamanch. Rangamanch is what it is called. So I do hope in a few years, she will have trained herself well enough that she can do her own Rangamanch. That's my hope for her. And that would be a happy moment for me to look forward to. So that's the happy part of things. But yeah, life is not always uh, as happy and joyful as it looks. So my child also had challenging times expressing themselves. There were frustrations. But one thing that I do remember, and this is why I want to bring in the component of society, society does play a role. So this is during COVID time, 2-3 years ago, when everything was shut down, kids were all home. Eventually, society opened up, and she did bump into a community kid who was her age. They started playing together. And one day, she casually mentioned to that child that I am transgender. Obviously, not a big deal. They are just playing amongst themselves. Uh, and something interesting but sad happened. From the next day, the child never showed up. And then we just inquired as to what's going on. Why we asked the mom as to what's going on. It's like, oh, I don't want my child to play with your child. It was as simple as that. And they decided not to interact with us. They were not in our immediate neighborhood, but close enough, but also far enough that, well, if you do not want to interact with us, you don't have to, it's your choice. But a simple thing, a child telling something to another child, and the society, which is the parent, intervening and says, I am going to take control of the situation and tell that my child should not have any relationship with some other child. So you can imagine how heartbreaking it must have been for my daughter. COVID time, not too many people. We had moved into a newer neighborhood just before COVID, and now you're told that you're going to be friendless again until you make new friends. But well, that was the sad part, and it does happen in society. And yeah, we do expect as part of this journey that we are going through for our child, that there are going to be more challenging moments that are going to come up. And the way I see it is, should I let my child fight for those challenges and overcome them? Or should I be an ally in supporting her and ensuring she doesn't have to face those challenges to best of my ability? So that's where my intent is. Moving on the same lines, and this is about us. Where's my question, Mary? Okay, yeah. So Mehreen, this is a question for you that you may actually take it all the way through. What has been the most helpful and the harmful thing, not for you or your child, but your family as a whole? And what advice do you have for people who may have kids who are LGBTQ, who may want to learn a bit more about LGBTQ?
Sure. What's been helpful? For our family, keeping our child's identity, any names or labels out of public view. This was a choice that was made by my son, and we honored what my son wanted. From the beginning, he chose to just be himself. He didn't want to be labeled as trans. So we honored that. I joined the Human Rights Campaign, and there were many opportunities given for, as a parent, for your child to, attend events and do interviews, accept certain projects. And my son didn't want to be a part of any of it. He said, it took him a long time to get to where he was, and he just wanted to live as an everyday boy. And that was what we honored. Even today, I don't do any presentations, and I don't give out too much information about him unless I have his permission first. I mean, by now he's like, yeah, mom, whatever, you can do what you need to do. But I still honor that identity that he has for himself. Once it's out in public's view in terms of the community, all that is something that's hard to put back in if your child so does not want that out there. Again, your kid may be different, and your child may want to be, they're perfectly okay with being, queer, non-binary, trans, gay. For my son, it didn't work, so I have to honor my son, and I'm the gatekeeper. Addressing the school was extremely important for our family, because when he started high school is tough as it is, right? But for him, what his day is going to look like, what's the support at school going to look like, we had an extensive list of questions, and we made an appointment with his school to go through what it would look like for our son during an average everyday school day. We went through what bathrooms he would be using, what would his name look like on the roster in the classroom, what does it look like to join clubs, how is the discretion used for the teachers, how much knowledge do the teachers have that my son is trans. Also, what about bullying? Bullying is everywhere. What if there is a case of bullying? How does your school manage that? What is the protocol? We also went through, like, for example, how are the teachers trained? How much do they know about LGBTQ plus kids? How much do they support in terms of using the proper vocabulary? Are staff being trained on an ongoing time frame, like consistently being trained all the time? And many schools right now are not. So we had to ask these things, and we knew that the counselors, social workers, the administrators, many of the teachers were all on board, and they were very proactive and protective. So we were very fortunate that we had a school like that. What else? Grandparents. Grandparents. That was harder than anything else, probably, because my parents being 85 and 82 years old, very religious, sticking to their own cultural bubble, with Pakistani Indian friends, PTV, everything that comes on into the house, newspapers, all of it, it's all in their culture. They lived like in this little bubble. So I told my husband, I said, I'm not doing this alone. You're coming with me. Like we're going to address my parents together. But it was hard because the vocabulary to explain to them in the English didn't translate to Urdu, right? So my parents had a million questions, but it's also how we present our truth, right? I wasn't apologetic for it. My mom was like, well, have you tried taking him to a psychologist? Have you tried taking him to doctors? But I don't understand. We saw him from birth. We changed the diaper. I mean, there were some serious questions being asked from my parents. And we addressed all of them. And we said one thing for sure, please, mom and dad, please address him with the right pronouns and his given name that he's chosen for himself. That's all we ask of you right now. Okay? If you have any questions, come to us. Don't go through him. Let him just be himself. We will catch you up on his journey. We will go through this together. But my mom's a Desi mom. She wanted the doctors in the family to come forth, and the doctors did not give the right representation. They said it was a phase. They said it was don't worry, it'll be over. It's the latest thing. So they were giving a lot of misinformation to my parents. So yeah, that was a very tough time for us. And today my parents at 85 and 82, they are very supportive of their son. When we sit down and pray, they use the right names, they use the right pronouns, they, make sure that my son is, gets a chance to, they address him in all of his needs as a male. So yeah, I have to say I'm proud of my parents that way. They're not that easy with me, but they did come to understanding their trans grandson very well. Timeline is very important. Something that can be very harmful is ignoring this. If what he asked for is not done in a timely manner, for example, he needed therapy. If I had put that off, I think there would have been some severe detrimental consequences. I think he would have really continued to hurt himself, and he would not have that outlet of someone to talk to. And it had to be a therapist that was very well spoken and learned in LGBTQ kids. So someone he knew with the trans plight and hardship and all that it goes for. How am I doing on time? But my son would have gone into further depression had he not gotten that trans affirmative care. And we're very fortunate. We live in Illinois. We got that in a timely manner. I feel for states that can't do this, and it's very harmful to the children. Am I going over? How are we doing on time? Yes.
So again, as Mehreen shared, the pluses and challenges along the way. But again, in the interest of time, I know we have a few questions, but so far we have told more in general about the happy side of our lives. But I do want to share something why we are here and what is the challenge that we are facing that we want you to know. And there are some truly unsettling statistics I'm quickly going to go through and distinguish and basically tell you that how we can change those. So if you think about it, for LGBTQ kids, life is not easy. Bullying, discrimination, those statistics are horrendous for LGBTQ kids. And as a result, ensuring that none of these things happen. And this, in addition to we being of the Asian diaspora, having other challenges are also there. So all those things makes lives very difficult for the kids. Gender affirming care, at some point, a child is going to be who they are. And we are facing challenges at the national level as to where your child can be safe and where your child can be discriminated against by law. So again, these are very challenging times that we have to fight very hard for so that we can ensure that every child in this country is treated equal and has the same opportunities. However, there's always a lot of hope. And if you see the statistics on the left here, says that parents who are the first step for their child to make a difference in their lives, if they are accepting, that child is going to come out just fine. They're going to be extremely happy, extremely noble, and everything will just come out fine. And the child is just going to feel like any other child. If that family is not accepting, life can be very difficult for these kids. And that's why acceptance, family acceptance becomes the first step to ensuring the safety and the well-being of the child. So family acceptance increases social self-esteem, social support, and the general health. And there are statistics around how health can be significantly affected for LGBTQ kids if they are not adequately supported. And the point here being, since Illinois is a blue state, let's strive for that blue color and stay away from the other colors. And there are different ways to do it. I'm not going into detail. The slides will be there so you can read it up, but educating ourselves, learning to communicate, learning to accept, learning to support, respect, and finally connect. And this is exactly what we are doing here, and the people who are on Zoom as well. You're trying to find an avenue to connect, to better understand the challenges, the issues, and how we can together support each other. So in the interest of time, we are going to skip the scenarios, as I mentioned to you that will happen. But before we switch to the questions, the one key thing that we want to do today is basically say this: what are we going to take away from this? What are we going to do as a community and that would be a call to action. What can we do in my organization, in my family, in my faith community and maybe at the advocacy level to make a small change one day at a time. What can we do today? And I'll start off with that. There are some things that we can do today. We introduced ourselves with our pronouns. Marine said she, her. I said he, him. It's basically to say that, no, this is our identity and we accept whatever identity you have. Family members, letting the people know, not necessarily they have to be your kids, that as a family member, as your neighbor, I'm there for you. I'm there to support you. Learn a little bit more about LGBTQIA issues through proper research, not Fox News for sure, but through proper research, and also see if you can learn a little bit about organizations that support these initiatives and how you can at least take the first step.
What's wrong with Fox? Another way that you can do something like for this week is introduce yourself. Start to introduce yourselves with your pronouns. In the beginning, it'll kind of feel a little bit funny maybe for some, but I promise you it just becomes natural. WhatsApp, family WhatsApps, make sure that you're having these talks and conversations with your family, that you're presenting them with some latest articles or curating, making sure that you have these open discussions and conversations in your faith-based communities. And there are so many faith-based communities that are accepting of LGBTQ rights for Muslims, and I know I'm sure for Christians, Hindus, Jews, they use the right terminology, they use the correct verbiage. Government, again, I think you can learn. There's always something in the headlines about what's going on with trans in sports, transgender affirming care, etc.
So I'm going to combine both what we can do maybe this month and this year. And basically, the end goal is making yourself available, being an ally, ensuring that you can be the face for the LGBTQ youth and community, and you can speak up for them just the way you would speak up for your rights. You want to speak up for their rights. You want to basically then get involved in organizations and be part of events like these where you can make an impact. And finally, since all of this ties into the legal landscape of things, you as a citizen of this country have the right to call up your legislatures and let them know what is important to you. So calling up legislatures, telling them know about equality acts, telling them that they have to pass it. You have to put the pressure. We cannot expect that someone else will do this for us. If we don't take the steps ourselves, nothing will happen. It's just like the story that we have learned as a child. There's a big rock in the middle of a street. Everyone bumps into it and shouts and screams at it and walks away. Nobody comes to remove the rock. And then one day there is some frail person who comes and removes the rock, and suddenly the whole thing changes. There are no traffic jams and so on. So those type of things. There are a lot of things we can do. These slides will be available. And finally, if you learn enough about LGBTQ youth and the challenges, you can be part of this transformationproject.org. It's an important site where all the bills that are against equality, any kind of equality, are being fought vigorously, and you can track those bills and you can make your voice heard through your vote, through calling your legislatures and so on. So few other things that you can do is be an ally with pride. And some of the steps you can take is basically being part of organizations, sharing your stories, making donations to many of the LGBTQ Sanjeevani. It's a nonprofit organization. You can make donations for them to make an impact on your behalf. So money can speak. If voice doesn't want to speak, let money speak. And obviously giving feedback of what is working, what is not. So with that, I think we are going to switch to some of the questions that have come up and be happy to address them.
We have just a few minutes,
Sure.
but we have about 4 different questions. So one is one teenager, 14 years old, born as a female, but then
Yeah.
A teenager was born as a female, but then she came out to be a male, only child of the parent. So the mother supported, but the father was unacceptable of what was happening. A lot of arguments happened, and still, ultimately, the parents had to divorce because of this. And the child, the child feels that she, responsible for all of this, and she feels very guilty, even though the mother is very supportive. And she says, "What can I do? life, the father has refused to accept it. And since the last couple of years, he has refused to acknowledge that this is my child.
Oh my gosh.
That's extremely unfortunate, and obviously I don't have a perfect answer for these, and maybe Mehreen doesn't again here. But yeah, these are the dynamics that are going to play. And I think the most important child, if it's a child who is speaking, who asked the question, or the mom who asked the question, it's you have to do your part. You really cannot control what you cannot control. It is not in your hands. You can do your part to be supportive of a child. You can do your part of letting the child know that no, they are not responsible for it. It's the father who has to turn around and come to the realization of what is right, what is wrong. Sometimes time is a healer, so time can play a big role in helping it out. And it's possible, because of whatever prejudices you hold, that maybe it will never happen, but that does not mean that you are responsible for it. It is the person who chose to not accept stuff, then they take the responsibility of the problem or the challenge they have caused, and it's not necessarily the child or the mother or anybody. And again, one thing I do tell to my family that, yeah, you can have your views, you can choose not to accept. Our doors will be always open. So if you at some day change your mind and come back, we are going to be as happy to accept you. We are not going to hold any grudges against you and go back to those days when we were all together as a family. So again, keeping that hope, keeping that perspective always open is important. But again, at the end of the day, it is not about us. There are things that we cannot control. And all we can do is, in those instances, hope those things change. No, my main question.
Some more questions.
Sorry.
Again, another teenager, 19 years old, again a male, but his preference is his preference is male. So he's a gay person. His friends, everyone of his age, they accept it. His school is also accepting everything. The parents, they simply refuse to acknowledge, and this has cost him his academic journey right now. He's just joined college, and the fact that he says he comes home, mom will always ask, "Do you have a girlfriend? Why aren't you making a girlfriend?" Because for some reason, the mom wants him to, so that there is kind of a proof that it's normal. So he's struggling. He says everyone except my parents, and what do I do?
These are very tough. Happens every day. I don't have a perfect answer to that. I think Raul answered that very well with the first question. I mean, sometimes as parents, we're offended because our dreams have been burst and our bubbles have bursted and our dreams for our kids. But we have to remember, we walk our own path. Right? They have their own journey. The kids they're coming through us, but they are not from us. They're not us, right? We're not them. But we can work together as a family and we can walk the path together. Life is more better when you're walking the path together. So I don't think I answered that question, but I think that's a very tough place to be.
Again, yeah, I was just going to go to that. Again, there is no right answer to that, but for the child, first of all, you're a brave child if the child is on the Zoom call. And yeah, life is not going to be easy. Again, one thing that always is there is that you have other places and forums where you are at least able to express your frustrations, express even your anger for that matter, not try to hold it within yourself. And that's one way to relieve the tension within you. And as far as the family dynamics goes, again, we are not therapists here. Sanjeevani is in a better position, but recommending or telling, it's not easy for a child to tell their parent, go and seek therapy. Again, that's not going to work that way. But one thing that can work out in a child's favor, and again, I'm talking it from just extended experience talking to people, is looking for allies who can connect with the parents at their age, allies who can help those type of parents to seek a different perspective. Like, for example, joining Desi Rainbows, just listening to other parents. Because what happens in many instances that all of us try to stay in that silo, We think this is a unique situation to us, and we believe it is because of some karma or whatever it may be. But the minute you are willing to open your eyes and look around, maybe you will see that you are not alone. And that itself gives you a lot of faith and a lot of promise to go on and try to navigate the journey. So again, using an ally is one way, that if the child knows that there are other people, elder people who are supportive, who understand the dynamics and who can talk to the parents, that could be one way for the child to at least reach out. But more importantly, take care of yourself, and you're a brave child, and you're doing just fine.
One question before we open up to everyone. This is from a mom. The mom used to live in Atlanta. The family used to live in Atlanta, and the kid was two kids, boy and a girl. The boy was 16 at that time, high school, just entering high school, and he indicated he is gay. So, at that time, again, unaware of, marginalized society, trying to understand what it is, the mom told the neighbors that my son is gay. And apparently, the neighbors stopped communicating with her and kind of shunned the family altogether. The family was very upset. The mom went into depression because it was too much for her to handle. One is, understanding her own son, and then again, society, the way it was behaving. The family moved to Chicago a couple of years back. And now she reached out to Sanjeevani. She's reached out to me many times. She said, I'm not going to tell anyone of what's happening in my family or what, how it is. But it kind of bothers her because all the family, they kind of say, my son is this, my daughter is this, but I want to tell someone, and that's why I'm calling Sanjeevani. What do I do so that the neighbors, the communities accept him? And she said in Atlanta when she was there, they stopped inviting them. The co-worker that the dad used to work, the mom was homemaker. Even the dad's South Asian co-workers said, something is wrong with you. Maybe you didn't raise your child properly. So it has affected the mom and dad significantly. They're in Chicago. They want to make friends, but they are so traumatized. They went to the school counselor, and she questions. The mom questions, "Did I do something wrong?" So, what advice would you have for them?
Thank you. Those are very tough questions. Again, I think Raul said it best. You need a community that supports you. You need to have a safe space to talk about these concerns, because these are very valid concerns that you are going to need to express to people who are going through the same thing as you are. So again, Desi Rainbows and Jeannie, these are great. And there's so many different parent groups and dynamics in the support groups within a program that we have at Desi Rainbows. So I'm going to be honest with you. Like I said, I'm not the therapist. My heart breaks for all of us that are going through something this way, but there is support. Something that we didn't have 20 years ago is here now for us today, and that comes in the form of allyship, like Carmel said.
I just want to add one thing to what Marine had said earlier on, and it is, what is the most important thing for you as a parent? And it should be, if we are honest to ourselves, it should be our child, their well-being. And if you have a community between your child and yourself, half the battle is won. Rest of the battle, yes, they're real things, but society is important. They can be supporting you, they can be against you, but at the end of the day, as long as you have the pillars within the family working towards each other and helping each other out, you will just come out fine. And to add to again what Marine was saying, there are avenues through which you can express yourself and find support and find comfort, and also ways to navigate in this journey. Desi Rainbows is one such group. We have a Chicago chapter, but all I ask is all the information is available. Just go to the website desirainbow.org. You will find a lot more information. Just put in your email somewhere and you will get the updates. Join the group and you will be able to navigate it a lot better.
I had a question. So you mentioned you have 3 kids. How did your other 2 kids take it? Are you partial to this kid versus the other 2?
They all think I'm partial to each one of them. I tell them they're all my favorites, right?
That's how
But
right.
how did I? My middle one was like, "Mom, what took you so long?" right? What took you so long to come aboard? I mean, it's been there, it's hitting you in the face and you didn't see it. My eldest one was straight in the military, straight out of the military. And he always made inappropriate jokes about gays. And, you know, he's a little bit of a rough neck and didn't really, he was joking. It's always just a joke. But because he did those kinds of jokes, my youngest didn't come out to him in the family until like absolutely last. They were playing basketball, and one day my eldest is like, "Is there something you want to tell me?" And he goes, "Yeah, like I'm trans." And he goes, "Good, great, let's move on. I don't know why you didn't tell me this, you know." But that's how the brothers handled it. They're his fiercest supporters, very loyal, very protective.
I just have one comment for the last question. One thing that
one simple thing we did as an ally in our neighborhood was that we don't have pride flags just on Pride Month. We keep them up all year. And we really decided as a group of our community, for those of us who are trying to educate ourselves, trying to be inclusive, want our children to be inclusive, is to have those flags up all year round so that even the parents moving in who are maybe struggling with some of these issues know who are their friendly neighbors and whose children will be always welcome at our homes to play with our kids. So that's a very simple thing that you can ask your HOA, or you can start with a group of neighbors, and it spreads like wildfire once you talk about it.
Yeah, simple speak a million words, right?
Yep, that allyship was not noted here, but that's one way to do it.
I think that brings us to the end of the session. Sincere thanks, Rahul and Mahreen. I think it's a lot of good information shared. And again, a huge thanks to all who have joined through Zoom and who are also watching this on Facebook Live. We hope you've received the information that you needed. But anytime we'll be sharing the Desi Rainbow information email address should you want to reach to them directly. Once again, a huge thank you, and thank you so much, parents, Desi Rainbow, Khalid, and all of you who have joined in today. Thank you, audiences.